we've created a video for you that highlights the many ways our Ann Arbor teachers and district leaders celebrate Black history, not only during the month of February, but throughout the year. We've tried to capture in the highlights opportunities to showcase units of study developed by teachers, for teachers, the ways in which we've integrated Black history throughout all of our disciplines, not just within the 4 core areas, but uniquely situated in areas such as Project Lead the Way. We've also tried to capture how we select our books for our classroom libraries for independent reading, as well as those books that a whole class might read in classrooms at the elementary level through our high school experience. In addition to that, we have concentrated on sort of challenging historical perspective. We've partnered with the University of Michigan, and we're working very hard with our classrooms on instructional practice that focuses on inquiry and looking at original text and beyond what textbooks would ordinarily or more traditionally represent as historical events. Black History Month is extremely important to the Ann Arbor Public Schools, but as I said earlier, it is not just concentrated, the study is not just concentrated in 1 month alone. This work will never be done. We will continue to work hard on looking at culturally relevant practices and culturally responsive teaching within our classroom environments, not only for our students, our African American students, but all of our students who are oftentimes underrepresented in our text and in our reading collections. Thank you very much for this opportunity, and we look forward to more conversation as the year continues.
We have found that our students are extremely engaged in the text that we read and learning about Black history. They really enjoy learning about history, and we feel it's so important to teach them because it's really shaped how our society is and how we live as people today.
So we believe that it is important to share Black history with our students because the world in this country has become a much different place, and lots of that has to do with how Black history has evolved. It's important to know that Black history is more than just slavery, and the books that we've chosen help to do so.
We like to celebrate Black history as well as the other diversities that are in our classroom. We like to do this throughout the entire school year. Now, focusing on Black History Month, I had a dream of doing a quilt, which quilting through the African American culture is of telling a story of celebration, of struggles, and I wanted to be able to share that with my students.
Explored Motown and the reason that Berry Gordy developed Motown. We studied this throughout the building, and our music teacher and our media specialist and our art teacher all developed specific threads so that students could explore these concepts in those content areas. So in addition to reading Ruth and the Green Book, students learned about Motown artists and why Berry Gordy developed Motown, and how Black musicians were not honored by record companies and radio stations. So students learned about this era when African American musicians and artists were discriminated against. They also learned about how people use music and art to share their thoughts about social justice, and students were able to share their own thoughts about social justice in both music and art in our school.
Camile A. Brown, who's a dancer and choreographer from New York, created a video on TED Ed that went viral a few years ago about social dance in the African American community. And for the last couple years at Scarlett, we've been showing that video, and students have always been really engaged by it. And so we saw that she was going to be coming to Ann Arbor this January, and so we wanted to build a school-wide unit around her performance of Ink, which tells the story of African American communities in the United States through social dances.
So what we've tried to do is incorporate that into units of study through our creating community through advisory, individuals and societies, Lang and Lit courses, so that students can then not only learn about the experience, but then also experience some of that through the dance and movement piece, where we took all of the students on a school-wide field trip to UMS to actually see the performance.
I like that the book adoption process is as much about the reader and the student as it is about the teacher. That we really have to have a great reasoning and analysis as to why we are choosing certain stories to tell. And Homegoing happens to be one of my favorite stories because it's a book about the complexities of the stories of the people of African descent.
My English Plus students read All American Boys by Jason Reynolds, and they were really inspired to see themselves represented in this book and really got turned on by the theme of social justice. And one of the really cool things that came out of our interaction with the book is that they were aware of a student at Huron who was going through a really difficult time and wanted to support that student. And I said, well, what would you like to do about it? And they said that they would like to write the student letters. And so we took a day where we wrote the student letters. We submitted those to an administrator who then passed them along to the student, and that student was so moved that he asked to come and visit our class after that. So I feel like the social justice in the book, really inspired them to continue on with stuff like that. So the district purchased us a bunch of books with protagonists from various backgrounds, and my students have been flying through them. One of my students is on his 6th book since we received them in early December, and he read this book. This was the first one that he read. Black Panther, we had the popular movie that came out last year, and so students are very much into the graphic novels, and he is an artistic student on top of it, and so he was fascinated by the fact that in the back of the book, the artists kind of walked the reader through how they created the art in the graphic novel. This was produced by Mohammed Francis Kamara, a 9th grader. And when Sarah Andrew Vaughn visited our class, she introduced him to Jackson Pollock, and so that's where he got the idea for the background here. The figure actually came from the graphic novel.
Black History Month is not just a month in social studies. It really is all year long. So many of the teachers in our district have just continued to incorporate lessons on Black history within what they were teaching. For example, at Pioneer, they were studying World War II, so they put a focus, even more of a focus, on African American fighters during World War II. Some of the other schools have had assemblies or classwork discussions on social justice or social injustice.
You're supporting students, teachers, and administrators in each and every building, as we do throughout the school year. But I'll get to a little more detail. 2nd graders are researching inventors with an emphasis on diversity. 3rd and 4th graders, while they're coding, are reading biographies at the beginning of each class, highlighting the contributions of the Black pioneers in computer science. Kindergarten and 5th graders are sharing a Black history fact each day with a connection to robotics and programming.
We're working hard in secondary math and computer science to ensure access and equity for all of our students. Our teachers regularly read articles trying to help us think really thoughtfully about how to improve the agency and the identity of our students within our classrooms. During the 2017-2018 school year, we created 2 sets of slides to be used in class. The idea was to integrate these slides through all of our units of instruction. The first set of slides we made was practice problems for the SAT, and the second set of slides we made is mathematicians and computer scientists that show people from all countries, all colors, all backgrounds. The goal is for teachers to use those through instruction all year so that we really are highlighting everyone all year long. We have added to those slides this year, and we will continue to add to those slides to improve them for years to come. We also maintain an internal secondary math and computer science website on that website, there is a large collection of articles, website references, and books and other materials for teachers to use during their instruction with their students. Many of the teachers have begun working on ways to integrate those materials into their classrooms. One example is Marie Weibark at Huron High School, who just finished a project on mathematicians of color with her Intensified Algebra 1 course.
One way we're celebrating Black History Month in AAPS is through high-quality read-alouds. Reading aloud is undoubtedly one of the most effective ways to help children develop the foundational reading skills that they need. Reading aloud is also a way for teachers to build content knowledge around important subjects such as Black history. Read-alouds stimulate higher-order thinking and engage students in meaningful discussion, which again is important around subjects like Black history. The Curriculum and Instruction Department has shared with teachers a variety of our favorite books for Black History Month and also all year long. Some describe the different histories of the Black community, while others show the joys and challenges that are shared by all children of color as they learn and grow.
It's really important that we take a close look at the books that we're studying in class because we want to make sure that every single student has opportunity to read about characters who are just like them and characters who are nothing like them, so that we might be able to better think about all of the perspectives that are offered in literature. And when we look carefully at which perspective is telling the story, we can also look carefully in what is not included in that story. And that is the hard work of English.
World language teachers in the Ann Arbor Public Schools use February as an opportunity to introduce, reflect, identify, and showcase the important contributions of Black and Brown people from the countries, culture, and communities of their target languages. Most of us do not only showcase these contributions during February, we recognize the importance of offering students the opportunity to see themselves represented in the cultures or the language they are learning. Some specific examples include the contributions of Muhammad Ali, Alice Walker, and Dave Chappelle, which are highlighted in our Arabic classrooms. ASL students at Community High School performed the Black National Anthem, Lift Every Voice and Sing. French classrooms acknowledge the contributions of many Francophone writers, including Aimé Césaire, Dumas, and Senghor. Did you know that W.E.B. Du Bois studied at the University of Berlin for 3 years and he had to learn German in order to take classes there? Our Spanish classrooms come alive with poetry from Victoria Santa Cruz, as well as Celia Cruz and her salsa dancing steps, to name just a few.
Right now during Black History Month, though, we kind of want to reaffirm our sort of commitment to this learning. And so we've been sharing with each other. I kicked off the month by sharing a little newsletter that shared out some resources that were brought to us by the Association for the Advancement of Science and All Americans. And I've just been highlighting a few things here and there, but with my first newsletter, I also sent a plea to sort of share back with me any of the work that you've been doing in your classroom for Black History Month. Within about 10 minutes, I had 10 examples from teachers just sharing great things with me. So Mary Buckwalter over at Forsyth Middle School, she shared with me the project she's been having students work on all month, where they're doing their own investigations about Black scientists. But every couple of days, students themselves are the ones presenting about these Black scientists, and every kid in their classroom is actually doing this work.
So thank you for enjoying this video. It was not intended to be a polished production, but rather a conversation that begins and continues always within the Ann Arbor Public Schools. I'd like to leave you with one additional sort of quote or thought from this text that we pulled and is used in some of our secondary classrooms. The author is Ta-Nehisi Coates, and the text is Between the World and Me. Ta-Nehisi Coates is an African-American author. So the author writes the following. The pursuit of knowing was freedom to me, the right to declare your own curiosities and follow them through all manner of books. I was made for the library, not for the classroom. The classroom was a jail of other people's interests. The library was open, unending, free. Slowly, I was discovering myself. This is evidence of why it's so important for us to think about our text collections, not just for classroom pursuits, but throughout the school day, including our media centers. Thank you so very much.